Hello. In this video I want to talk about one of my previous videos, one of my first videos in the playlist I put these videos in, which is called Monopoly of Opinion. Just click me name, click playlist, it's right there. It's called music playlist, I'm unfinished, but anyway, it's kind of related to how to fix these problems in law. And the problems I was talking about in the video are where there's laws, they're based to fix a problem that's been measured and they have their own definitions, their own little science to them, and a bit of mathematics and bureaucracies with statistics and stuff. But as an output, the effect of these laws affects the lives of lots of millions of people that are strangers to most of us. I suppose we only have so many friends, as I was saying in the video. And so you get these laws that cause this unmeasured chaos all over a country, all over Australia. It's a Victorian law in this state, all over Victoria. It happens in America, it happens in Europe, it happens in India, it happens in Japan, it happens everywhere these days with just the state of democracy. Anyway, issues come up with the new incumbent federal government here in Australia, Anthony Albanese's government, of this voice in Parliament thing that's supposed to give a voice to minorities in Parliament. So anyway, and a similar thing that already exists in Victoria is the Human Rights Act establishes the Human Rights Commission, which gets to advise Parliament on human rights and what the effects of laws will be on human rights. And a bit like that, I have a similar idea where there'd be this function in Parliament to identify all these bad laws that violently coerce people, and it's a bit like human rights, a little bit like the Human Rights Commission. I don't know the full details what they'd be. I haven't come up with all of them. I hope to have a better system in 5 years' time. It could be a good idea to have some kind of additional democratic function that allows laws to be reviewed to see if they just go around bullying and bashing millions of people without any regards for what it does to their lives. And really it means a law, regardless of its intent, it has no way of objectively, in any measured, rational sense, leading to a specific result. It really leads to the hope of a result, regardless of the cost and regardless of the sacrifice of the freedoms of millions of people. And there's a lot of these laws, there's a lot of things in life that are repressed, but really at the essence of it, we need to establish a voluntary kind of society without this kind of madness to kind of finish what started in the Enlightenment and died hard in the late 19th and 20th century. By the time these trends were big, though, there's the prohibition era, there's eugenics, there's the war on drugs these days, there's a hell of a lot of internet crimes, there's fighting terrorism by terrorising the hell out of everyone. I think all of us know with the computer, we could be being spied on by our own government, and we all know there's corruption in our own government, and have this political cycle over it from Liberal to Labor, from Republican to Democrat in America, and this back and forth where they're basically always creating more laws to fix the chaos the laws create in the first place, and the new laws have the same, it's really just an axiomatically logical and mathematical problem when you don't care about what things are going to do in the real world to the lives of people most people never see. And so it becomes obvious just not to coerce people unless there's obvious evidence they're violent or they're a sex pest or a thief or whatever. Anyway, I think, yes, some kind of function a lot like the Voice of Parliament thing or the Human Rights Act in Victoria and the Human Rights Commission could exist that really helps the Senate make laws that aren't violent, chaotic and crazy. And, people have all these things, what about the roads, what about wartime, what about education? Well, people have to just sort that some way out that doesn't create fucking chaos to feed it with tax money and stuff, and it really does mean getting rid of taxes. And want to fight a war, you've got to have people that actually want to fight the war and win, or you'll win the war and lose your society. The Allies won World War II, but in Europe, part of that was they didn't really believe enough in it. They'd have a draft and things, and they ended up sacrificing half of Europe to communist slavery. And even post-war, Germany's run by people clearly just as bad as the communists. They've got an energy shortage now, maybe a famine's next. I don't know. Problem these days is got so much food, the main food-related problem in the world, especially in the countries like Australia and America and Germany, is people eat way too much of it. Germany's doing a bit better, but anyway, it's actually a nice idea, really, that there could be some change to the functions of a democratic government and sort of keep it tied down to the principles that were intended for in the Constitution. I don't think the Constitution's enough because you get all these laws regardless and they'll stay around until there's a High Court verdict or a Supreme Court verdict in America that stops them. But if, there was some kind of function, but probably unlike the Human Rights Act and Voice of Parliament thing, it should belong in the Senate where laws are decided on or sent back to be fixed. And electing good senators is one thing, but really it could just really be some kind of bureaucracy that goes, this law's coercive and checks if things are constitutional and advises the Senate before it screws that up. I don't know. Or even, yeah. There's a bunch of ideas there, and really the idea is to have a principle in governing again about the government being a sponsor of self-defense. And yeah, a lot of people, of course, find it so hopeless they've turned to ideas like anarchy, and I don't think anarchy could work, because even if there was anarchy and everyone agreed with these ideas to have this anarchaic society with a non-aggression principle, it could last a generation until the kids decide, oh, that shit, let's tax people and spend it on God knows what, It's this sort of thing there, like pacifism is a lot like anarchy, everyone being peaceful, everyone being non-violent, because there's people out there free will who are going to violate that and there's no way for them to defend themselves. And there's a country that's tried pacifism in a big way, sort of consistently across most of society. It's Tibetan society, and the Chinese kind of just rolled in and took it all, and that's the problem with anarchy as well. Yeah. There's nerds who think like a singularity, a super AI will take over the world, and even if that happened, I don't think it'd happen that way. I think there'd be a bunch of AIs with a bunch of geopolitical areas, essentially, or geo-AI areas that it rules over, and they might fight each other. Some of the AIs would be parasites like Hitler and Stalin, and I don't think AI is going to be the answer either. The GPT's cute to talk to about politics, very impartial, and the GPT-3 Da Vinci one, that's a very big Ayn Rand fan like me, really loves Atlas Shrugged. So definitely the AIs can be better than the governments we've got, but only in being lesser degrees of stupid. But really, we just need to bring principle to every law that's in the country. We need to repeal every one that just violates the principle of human rights and people being safe and protected from violence and psychos. And as I said in other videos that aren't in my feed like this one, a big part about dealing with psychos is people being free to shoot them, not just police. And I will make another video in the future about how much I hate police, how policing needs to be just gotten rid of. We need to go more to the things we had before policing, like having militias, having a bloody count in the county with a bloody guard that runs around lopping people's heads off. 10 times better than police. Yeah, there's a lot of people aren't smart, they're not bloody software engineers like me. And the future can be more automated stuff. They might not need guaranteed minimum income. They might just be around like Aaron Rittenhouse was, to protect our property and stuff. Camera's starting to shake again. I'll change hands. Anyway, yeah. Ultimately, we can't just do away with governance. I think it'd send us back a million years. Civilizations are very important. It's why we have agriculture. It's why we're all getting fat. And anyway, we need to just get rid of a lot of laws. And I think one of the reasons I make these videos is to give sort of a down-to-earth Aussie take on some pretty complicated political views. I think a lot of it's quite simple, really, and we can all believe in it. We don't need to become wizards of objectivist epistemology or complex philosophical or legal matters. We're all in life specializes. We get a skill, and like I'll see like a handyman come over and do his wizardry. There's a locksmith once and a gas repairman. There's just so much skill in what they do. They might not know a fucking thing about. And there's just most of the laws I don't know about either much, because there's just so many of them. We can all just do it and just have a society we all agree with that just believes in principle. We just need to be protected from the initiation of force. And I don't think it's that hard anyway. That's the video. We should have some kind of voice in Parliament to tell them when the law's wrong. See ya. Peace.